Hi guys, so today's video I'm going to look at the three biggest areas that can hold clients back from getting results. I've had a lot of people ask me what I do with clients now at the moment, and this is kind of an introduction to the foundation of how I set up people's diet and lifestyle changes, and these are based on kind of the things that I see that hold clients back the most. I think for most people, even if you're not training, and don't specifically want to lose fat or gain muscle, I think even if you cover these three areas, you definitely vastly improve your long-term health and also improve your quality of life as well. Okay, so the first point I'm going to say is that there's no one single diet that's going to work for everybody. I think nothing annoys me more is when I see, obviously, in the fitness industry and health industry, things are kind of marketed as a panacea, a cure-all, so they can get as many people as possible buying into them. But in reality, the truth is, the best diet plan really is going to be one that's specifically tailored for you, your body, your needs, your goals. Also, on that note, bear in mind that what works for you is what works for you. It doesn't matter if it does or doesn't work for anybody else. I think what you need to do is always remain objective. So as you've got some way of recording your results, you can see what's working for you and what's not. I've had clients that are very similar, age, sex, training abilities, history, but I've always had to tweak diets between the two people to get the best results for them. So pay no mind to what works for other people, no matter how much they bleat on about it, because if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you regardless of what the theory is behind it. Also, obviously be objective. If you think you're doing everything you can now and you're tearing your hair out and you're not getting the results, then there must be a reason why you're not getting your results. So you have to be prepared to make a change. So if you're not happy where you are now, and where you are now is a product of what you're doing now, obviously we need to change what you're doing now to change the results that you're getting now. So don't fear making change, and be prepared to be objective about it and just say, well, I'm doing this, all these other things, it's obviously not working, so we need to make a change somewhere. So the first area or issue I want to talk about is food intolerances. From my experience over the past 18 months, I begin to realise the importance of getting my clients tested for food intolerances. With food intolerances, you need to kind of understand the difference between a food allergy and a food intolerance. A food allergy tends to be a lot more severe and instantaneous in your reaction, and you're generally going to get more external symptoms, like rashes, difficulty breathing, stuff like that. Whereas a food intolerance, because it goes to a slightly different part of the immune system, or it affects a slightly different part of the immune system, they tend to be a lot more subtle, slower in the reaction, a lot more insidious to detect as well, which is part of the problem with them really, is you don't really know sometimes the foods you are reacting to and they're actually affecting your health. Food intolerances, they affect your digestion of your food. They can contribute to things like leaky gut syndrome, which I'll go through in kind of the next section. But also generally it's like an extra stressor on your body that you don't necessarily realise is there. And the key is with it is that on paper the food could be a very healthy food, it's just that for whatever reason it's basically poison to your body. A good example of that is eggs, specifically chicken eggs, because great healthy food, full of good quality fat, protein, fat-soluble vitamins, very good for you. But if you're intolerant to them, they're going to cause you issues. And that's the key with kind of food intolerances, is that you've got to get the ones specific to you discovered. So it doesn't matter, you could be different to people in your family, your friends, whatever. You need to know the ones specific to you if you do have them, and not everyone does have strong ones. And that kind of gives you a starting point with your diet, because basically what you're going to do, you're going to avoid the food your body doesn't get on with at all, and then all the foods you're left with, you want to get as much variation in those as possible, so you don't develop any more food intolerances down the line. And that's going to be a good way to ensure that you've got good gut health, digestive health, and that in turn is going to improve your overall health and obviously how lean you can get and how much muscle you can put on as well. So what are the signs of possible food intolerance? Possibly sleep disturbance, but there's loads of things that can contribute to that. I would say one of the best ones maybe is if you get like intermittent diarrhea, and then you can sort of eventually begin to kind of track it down to certain foods that will cause it, so the next time you go to the toilet you have an issue, but when you don't eat them you don't. That could be a good sign you're actually intolerant to that food. I would say the best thing to do is to get a blood test done, and what they'll actually do is they'll look at your antibody production against certain food groups, and then they'll give you a list. There's two main ones, or two main styles. Sometimes they'll list them in kind of groups of, most reactive foods, mild reaction, least reactive. That gives you an idea. Basically, you just want to take anything out in the most reactive group out completely. Limit the medium reaction foods, and then watch how you go with the low reaction foods. The more advanced lists, what they'll do is for each food they'll have like a sliding scale from green to yellow to red. So all you have to do is just avoid all the foods that have got a red rating by them. Watch your intake of the ones in the yellow, and obviously stick to the ones that are in the green. So it depends what tests are available in your area as to what kind of result you'll get. But either way, they give you a good starting point for your diet. So the simple rule is take out the foods you don't get on with, and then get as much variation with all the foods you've got left. And that way you're going to have good digestive health and obviously improve your long-term health as well. Another interesting fact that I pulled up as well, that it's actually possible, I found this interesting, to develop an addiction or cravings for foods you don't actually get on with. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but basically what happens is that they actually affect your brain chemistry. They actually cause a reaction in your gut, which in turn affects brain chemistry, which can almost gives you like a little shot of energy, because it's actually a stress reaction. But really, it's his body's kind of freaking out because it's being almost attacked by this food. So you actually do need to take it out. So you need to just be objective, get a good quality test done, and then just adhere to it. And it doesn't matter what anyone else gets on their test. What's important is what's on your test. So I have had one or two clients that have been blessed that haven't had any, but the majority of my clients have got maybe 2, 3, or even 4 really reactive food groups, but they're always slightly different between people, and that's why you need to look at which foods you need to take out, so you don't take out anything unnecessarily which could be healthy for you, and then that way you've got a list of foods that you can eat perfectly fine. One thing as well to be careful of, kind of the big point about it, is obviously not taking out foods you are not intolerant to. Because really you don't want too much of a restrictive diet. So this is something I've found with people that eat a very strict paleo diet all the time, and especially in my own experience as well. Obviously key food groups for paleo is obviously healthy fats, so things like eggs and nuts, which is great. They're good healthy foods. The trouble is I tend to find people who do eat strict paleo tend to eat them all the time, and that can cause issues long term and actually develop food intolerances from it. So obviously if you're intolerant to eggs and nuts, eating a strict paleo diet probably isn't the best for you, unless you can get more variation with healthy fats sources and protein sources. And usually you find it's, especially with my clients, I've noticed the foods they tend to eat the most of over the past few years they actually become reactive to. So that's again, it's a good prompt to remind us all that really, a good diet's going to have a variety of protein, fat, and carbohydrate and vegetable sources in it, so you don't become intolerant to certain foods. So that's kind of the key to the health. Avoid things you're intolerant to. Get as much variation as possible in all your other foods. Just going to put up a little list of kind of common food allergens that I've come across. Things like chocolate, coffee, wheat's a big one, yeast, dairy products, and eggs. So I'm not saying for a second don't eat those foods. What I'm saying is those are the common ones that I see. You have to get yourself tested so that you know in black and white which foods you need to avoid and which ones you don't need to worry about. Because there's no point canning out food that you're not intolerant to at all. And I would say definitely, if you do one thing and one thing only, if you forget the rest of this video, go and get your food intolerances tested. Because the amount of times I've had clients spinning their wheels with results, we go get the food intolerances done, and they're intolerant to eggs, say, and I don't know, dairy. Take out eggs and dairy, and suddenly start getting results again. And still the training's the same, and the rest of the diet's the same. Interesting point with eggs as well is that usually you find if you're intolerant to chicken eggs, sometimes you can introduce either duck or goose eggs because they've got a slightly different protein markup. Your body won't react to them the same way that it will do with chicken eggs. So there's a little tip for your eggs there. So yeah, one thing only, I would do this 100% with every client now. I get their food intolerances checked out, and it does stop me tearing my hair out if on paper the diet looks good but they're not getting results. I usually find it's because they've got some sort of food intolerance we didn't know about. So yeah, go and get a blood test done, look at the list, look at it in black and white, foods you're intolerant to, cut them out, like 100%, and you notice your health will improve straight away, and you'll probably get a little bit leaner as well. Okay, next point we're going to move on to, it's kind of related from food intolerances, but it's gut health. So you've got the two biggest issues here. One is what we call leaky gut syndrome, and the other is what we call gut dysbiosis. So we'll go with leaky gut syndrome first of all. So leaky gut syndrome is characterised by a disruption of what we call the tight cells that kind of line the wall of your gut, and their job is to basically let through molecules of a certain, up to a certain size, and anything too big doesn't get allowed to come through. The trouble is, if you do have leaky gut, is that obviously larger molecules can pass through, and they'll actually put a bit of a strain on your liver, because your liver's then going to try and filter these out, and it shouldn't really have to do that because the gut wall was supposed to do that to begin with. So always kind of think about, if you've got these cells packed together, there's like a small gap in between them that's going to let through certain molecules. When you've got leaky gut syndrome, the gaps are a lot bigger. Obviously, bigger molecules get through, and they're going to affect your body because it's an extra strain on your body. What causes it? Food intolerances do. So again, another reinforcement there to get your food intolerances checked out. Nutrient deficiency can do it. Gut infection. If you get infected with bad bacteria, or there's an overgrowth of bad bacteria, that will actually affect leaky gut syndrome. Also, if you get parasites, they can damage the mucosal layer, which is like the protective layer around the gut wall, and that will lead to it as well. Also, an interesting point as well, there's actually been some research into a link between leaky gut syndrome and diabetes type 1. Reason being is that because you've got this these larger food particles passing through into the system, so that's going to stimulate an immune response because the body's going to start to attack these food particles. And basically what happens is that you've got, I'm going to read this off, your T lymphocyte mediated cells, they can actually become a little bit too overreactive and can actually start to damage the beta cells in your pancreas. So the beta cells in your pancreas are the cells that actually produce insulin. So if they become damaged, obviously you can use your body to produce insulin, and it's going to damage the way that your body can actually control your blood sugar. So again, gut health, really important for your overall health. I think a lot of people that have issues with sleep issues, depression issues, can't lose weight, constantly gaining fat, a lot of it comes back to the gut issue, because if your gut's not healthy, the rest of you isn't going to be healthy, that's for sure. Okay, next point is what we call gut dysbiosis. So gut dysbiosis is an imbalance between the different types of bacteria that live in your gut. So obviously we've got millions and millions and millions of these bacteria living in our gut. There's all different types and forms. Obviously what we need is an optimal balance between all of them to ensure we break down our foods correctly, we can absorb our foods correctly, and obviously promote health in the rest of the body. Now what happens is that foods that you eat are basically a prebiotic, or almost like a fertilizer for the bacteria that live in your gut. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you tend to eat this is a common one, if you tend to eat a very high sugary diet, you're going to promote an overgrowth of yeast, specifically things like candida and stuff like that, which can cause issues. And when you have an imbalance of gut bacteria, certain types can actually produce endotoxins, which are kind of toxins that are produced within the body, and that's going to affect the rest of your body as well. Obviously it's going to damage, some of them can damage the mucosal layer of your gut lining as well, leading to more leaky gut. But obviously if you've got these endotoxins running around, that's going to put more strain on your body to try and get rid of these toxins, and obviously it's going to cause more inflammation around the body. So obviously what we need to do is make sure we do everything we can to promote a good healthy balance of gut bacteria. So one of the key ways you can do that, obviously you can take a probiotic, definitely helps, because that's actually replenishing the most useful forms of bacteria that we have, and help us digest our food better. Obviously the food that you eat is going to have a big impact. So obviously a diet's high in good quality vegetables and starches, they actually, they're food for some of our most beneficial gut bacteria. So obviously if you limit things like sugary refined foods and have more things like rice, sweet potato and all your veggies, obviously that's going to help promote good gut health. The other point is as well, I notice with a lot of clients who tend to get sick all the time, obviously they take a lot of antibiotics for various different things. Obviously antibiotics, obviously they kill off bacteria, and obviously because they're going through your digestive system, they're going to kill off the bacteria in your digestive system. So people who have a lot of antibiotics and tend to be ill all the time, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because you need the antibiotics to kill off the bad bacteria that's running around, but at the same time you're killing off your good bacteria. So you definitely need to make sure once you've done your course of antibiotics, you take a probiotic and replenish what you've lost, which is a key for your long-term health. And you actually find if you do replenish your probiotics and look after your gut, you probably won't be getting ill as much as you would do in the first place anyway. A thing I look for with clients, people that tend to get ill all the time, definitely I think it's an indicator of poor gut health. So if you look after your gut, so minimising food intolerances, leaky gut, improving the balance of gut bacteria, you'll notice your immune system's a lot stronger and you won't get as ill. And I think that's a good thing for most people who generally don't want to be ill. You don't want to be in good health most of the time. Also as well, a good point, especially for leaky gut syndrome, is if you take an amino acid called glutamine. Glutamine is very important for helping rebuild the gut wall and maintaining its health as well. It's also very cheap to buy, because gluten. You don't have to buy necessarily a branded make in a fandangled box. You can buy fairly cheap stuff off the internet, and it's still glutamine. There's no difference. And taking glutamine, I would recommend taking some every day. If you suspect you've got some real gut issues, you may want to take a much higher dose of it. But definitely I would check with a qualified medical practitioner that's got experience with gut issues in your area as to what they recommend based on their experience. So either a functional medical practitioner or what we call an integrative GP. They'll both be kind of people that can understand this stuff. Look at kind of where you're at, do some tests to see if you need to work on it, and they'll give you good protocols for it. But I would definitely recommend glutamine and probiotics. They're definitely a good start for most people. And if you're taking glutamine regularly, that's going to promote good gut health and maintain your gut health. So very important to look after your gut health and the bacteria within for long-term health. Okay, so the next issue I want to look at is key supplementation or key deficiencies that I come across in clients that have a massive impact on results and obviously their health as well. The three biggest ones are magnesium, zinc and vitamin D. The fourth would be essential fatty acids, so omega-3. But if you eat sort of 3 to 4 portions of oily fish a week, you won't need to supplement with that. If you don't, then maybe you need to. Also depends on what your diet's like. We'll get back to the main three. You need to get your blood levels checked to see whether you need some help with them or not. So if you go to either an integrative GP, functional medical practitioner, or even your standard GP or medical centre, provided you know which test to request, you can get your levels checked. With the magnesium and zinc, this is a key point as well, is you want to be sure to get the RBC or red blood cell values checked. The standard tests that your doctor requests is serum levels. The trouble with the serum levels, or blood serum levels, is they don't really give a good long-term indicator. I mean, if they are low, you're basically on the verge of death pretty much. And they tend to be affected, even the last meal that you just ate will affect your blood serum levels of zinc and magnesium. Whereas your red blood cell, because it takes longer to make your blood cells, have got a longer life, they'll give a better indication of long-term levels is what you really want, because that will give you a clearer picture of what's actually going on. And I would say when you get your test done as well, they're going to give you your value of where you're at and the desired range by the side of it. In that desired range, I would recommend you're in the kind of upper third of that range, just because that kind of range is based on a wide variety of health levels in people. So which people are going to be very unhealthy and deficient. So if you're in the top third of those, for those three on the ranges, you're doing well. Okay, so the number one most important, magnesium. Magnesium is important for several hundred reactions in the body, so you can obviously see why it's key for long-term health and results. Actually helps improve your HDL or high density lipoprotein cholesterol levels, which is key for cardiovascular health. Also helps maintain nerve and brain function. Also helps improve insulin sensitivity, so we're going to get a key point there for avoiding diabetes or insulin problems. And also it helps improve your sleep and how well your body can deal with stress. So it's not to say that magnesium is specifically a sleep supplement, but I get my clients to take it throughout the day, and it definitely helps them, especially if they're very stressed out, they have poor sleep patterns. There's usually an improvement pretty quickly there, which I think is a good thing. We'll see in an ideal world, we better get it from all our foods. Specifically fruits and vegetables are a good source. So if you're eating 5 to 7 portions of fruit and veg a day, in theory you should be getting enough. The only trouble is that most people probably don't eat 5 to 7 portions of fruit and veg a day. And also the magnesium levels are heavily dependent on the quality of the soil that the vegetables and fruit were grown in, which can obviously vary wildly. So I would get your levels checked, but I'd say, especially if you're training hard, what I would do if I was training hard is I would definitely take a supplementation. So take some capsules for it. Obviously buy a good quality, well recommended product. Taurine magnesium is sometimes the cheaper ones. You can buy them and they'll just give you diarrhea because you won't absorb them very well. So the key is absorption. And looking up today, kind of checking my sources, I know some functional medical practitioners recommend doses of around about 600 milligrams a day. I'm not saying you need to take that necessarily. Obviously get yourself checked by a local functional medical practitioner or integrative GP, and they'll be able to give you a good recommendation based on where your levels are at the moment. But yeah, magnesium, very important for health and results. Okay, number 2 is going to be zinc. Again, it's important for several hundred chemical reactions in the body, so you can see why being deficient is not good. It's key for testosterone production actually as well. So obviously as a man, if you want to be muscular and lean, you need to make sure you've got adequate zinc going in, so that you've got optimal testosterone production. A second big point as well is actually key for stomach acid production as well. So if you've got low stomach acid, you're not going to digest and therefore absorb your foods very well. So if you've got adequate zinc, obviously that's one of the things that's going to help maintain digestive health from a stomach acid point of view. Good dietary sources of zinc include beef, lamb, crab meat, turkey, chicken, lobster, clams and salmon. Also dairy produce as well, but obviously be careful if you've got any food intolerances. Don't eat dairy if you are intolerant to it. And for anyone out there who's a vegetarian, pumpkin seeds are actually the highest non-meat source of zinc for you. Obviously, get your levels checked first of all. Obviously, again, taking a supplement might be needed if you do struggle to keep your levels up. But again, seek the advice of a local health professional before you take on board. Zinc's a little bit funny because you can actually give yourself some issues by overdosing on zinc. Magnesium is a little bit different because you tend to it will just kind of just go through your system and not get absorbed. But zinc's, you've got to be a little bit careful with the zinc. So definitely get some key advice, local advice on that. So the next one, vitamin D. It's technically not what we call an essential vitamin that needs to be supplemented in that sense, because we can actually synthesize it within the body, obviously from UV exposure from the sun. Trouble is though, obviously a lot of people, because they work indoors in offices and stuff, don't necessarily get enough sun, and maybe some countries, especially if you're back home in the UK, you probably don't get enough sun because there just isn't any to get. And vitamin D is technically like a pro-hormone, so it's kind of important for testosterone production. Is a key one again for men if you're looking to kind of optimise your health. Vitamin D, having adequate vitamin D is kind of key. We're just going through kind of latest research. Vitamin D deficiency has been linked to osteoporosis, lower testosterone, lower muscle mass and strength, rickets, cancer, insulin resistance, diabetes, depression, MS, epilepsy, Alzheimer's, and decreased immune system function, to name a few. And that's not to say that vitamin D, if you already have those issues, is going to fix them. It's just that what the research shows that people that do have those health issues actually also have a vitamin D deficiency. So it might have been that because they were vitamin deficiency, it's put them more at risk of getting those issues. So you can see why it's key to kind of keep levels topped up, kind of as a preventative, kind of maintaining good health. Food sources can come from fish, so things like herring, mackerel, salmon. Also oysters, eggs and mushrooms. Again, pay attention to food intolerances because they supersede any recommendations here. Obviously there's no point eating eggs to get vitamin D if you're intolerant to eggs. Also, you also found that you can take supplements as well. And look at some of the current recommendations out there. Some experts seem to recommend daily doses of around about 2,000 to 4,000 IU, which is international units per day, to keep your levels topped up. But again, check with your local health professional based on your blood work to see if you do need to supplement to keep it up or not. Okay, so obviously those are the three key areas that I work on with my clients, usually before I do anything else, before I even start writing diet plans and really in-depth training programs, because I know that the quality of the results is depending on the health of your body. So the healthier I make you as a foundation, the better results we can get in the future. And I say, if you look after those 3 points, they give you a massive advantage over other people in terms of getting your results and obviously looking after your long-term health. Again, I'll just reiterate, if you do one thing and do one thing only, please get your food intolerances checked out, because that makes such a big difference to quality of people's life. I've seen it with clients before. It really does improve things all around, and just be objective with it. Even if it's one of your favourite foods you have to cut out, then so be it. I mean, you might have to cut it out for a year, and then you can start to reintroduce it again. But I rate having good health a lot higher than just enjoying one good meal that isn't very good for me. And obviously also with these, you can see in a lot of them there are some overlapping health issues that are related to all of them. Obviously diabetes was one of them, specifically with leaky gut function being linked to it, and also being magnesium and zinc deficient can contribute to it as well. So we can see how some of these common health issues that people start to get now can be kind of traced back to gut health, and kind of vitamin and mineral deficiencies that people just aren't getting from their modern diet. So yeah, I would definitely, if you're serious about getting really good results, serious about getting, maintaining long-term health, go through these 3 areas, get them covered. Get your food intolerance test done, get your basic blood work done, look after your gut health, and obviously good health is going to be yours to treasure for years to come. And also as well, if you're somebody who's spinning their wheels, training your guts out and not getting the results you want, definitely get these issues checked out, because I can always guarantee one of these, or if not all of them, are going to be holding you back. So I can't iterate how important these issues really are, and I would highly recommend that you get them checked out, and you kind of get yourself organised in terms of keeping on top of them, your long-term health. Okay, so that's enough from me on these. So is there any questions or comments? Let me know. Anyone who wants to kind of read more info on this, I would definitely check out a guy called James Laval. He's done 2 great books. One of them is called Cracking the Metabolic Code, and the other one, which I've got here, it's called Your Blood Never Lies, and he kind of gives info on blood tests to get done, how to read the values and the right ones to get done and stuff like that. Kind of gives you an idea of, with your doctor or functional medical practitioner, what you're actually looking at and what it could be indicating. So yeah, obviously go for those 3 areas, and you'll enjoy awesome results.